So here's my plan, to the extent that I have a plan. We ended right at the end of the Middle Ages. I am going to try to get us from the end of the Middle Ages until, today. I'm just going to read sections from the textbook. You might not know we have a textbook. We do. It's this. I found it under my bed looking for survival supplies. And I'm just going to read sections from it. Now, look, we are not looking for a highly nuanced or contextualized view of world history here. We're just trying to survive the pandemic. So I'm going to read these bite-sized history McNuggets for you to, enjoy and learn some stuff. You can take notes or don't take notes and just rewind the video if you need to. I'll put some questions on Google Classroom if you're into answering questions. Maybe. We'll see. This is all new. So that makes it fun and terrifying. In the beginning, there was darkness. And then a lot of stuff happened, and eventually we end up in Europe in the 1300s. It looked like this. But also like this. Lesson 1, post-pandemic, the 100 Years' War, and stuff. Remember, we are at the end of the Middle Ages. We're moving into the Renaissance. I'm just wrapping some stuff up for you so that you understand what comes next. We're on page 398, if you had a textbook, which, you don't. But just, for trivia night, we started on page 398. Setting the stage. The 1300s were filled with disasters. Fun already. Both natural and human-made. The church seemed to be thriving, but soon would face a huge division. A deadly epidemic claimed millions of lives. So many people died in the epidemic that the structure of the economy changed. Wow. That seems apropos. Claims to the throne in France and England led to wars in those lands. The wars would result in changes in the governments of both France and England, because those were the two countries. By the end of the century, the medieval way of life was beginning to disappear. Just like all my hopes and dreams. A church divided. At the beginning of the 1300s, the age of faith still seemed strong. Soon, however, both the Pope and the Church were in desperate trouble. Pope and King collide. I don't know how to indicate with my voice, like here's a red heading, here's just some bold words, here's a blue vocab word. I'll figure that out. Pope and King collide. In 1300, Pope Boniface VIII, that's probably actually Boniface, attempted to enforce papal authority, that's the Pope's authority, on kings as previous popes had. When King Philip IV of France asserted his authority over French bishops, Boniface responded with an official document. He sent a strongly worded letter. It stated that kings must always obey popes, as they should. Philip merely sneered at this statement. How do they know? How do they know his precise facial expression? He sneered. Well, he was French. He must have sneered. This is why I don't use the book. Avignon, or maybe Avignon, and the Great Schisms. Schism. In 1305, Philip IV persuaded the College of Cardinals to choose a French archbishop as the new pope, Clement V. The newly selected pope moved from Rome to the city of Avignon. That's a blue word. I don't know. It's blue. So that's a city in France. Popes would live there for the next 69 years. The move to Avignon badly weakened the church. When reformers finally tried to move the papacy back to Rome, however, the result was even worse. In 1378, Pope Gregory XI died while visiting Rome. That's sad. The College of Cardinals then met in Rome to choose a successor. As they deliberated, they could hear a mob outside screaming, "A Roman, we want a Roman Pope, or at least an Italian." I mean, as protest chants go, it's very reasonable. They were willing to come. We want a Pope, or just whatever you got in there. Maybe Italian? We like Italian. We like Italian. Finally, the cardinals announced to the crowd that an Italian pope had been chosen, Pope Urban VI. He was from a city. That's not true. Many cardinals regretted their choice almost immediately. Urban VI's passion for reform and his arrogant personality caused the cardinals to elect a second pope a few months later. They chose Robert of Geneva, who spoke French. He took the name Clement VII. Ah, great. Now there were two popes. Each declared the other to be a false pope, excommunicating his rival. So remember, excommunication's a big deal. It means you don't get the rights of the church, like communion, which, the wafers are delicious. It's a sad thing when that happens. So that's a bad thing. You go to hell if you're excommunicated. And now each of the two popes had just excommunicated the other. What does that mean? It's an existential crisis. The French pope lived in Avignon, while the Italian pope lived in Rome. This began the split in the church known as the Great Schism. Blue word, Great Schism, or division. In 1414, the Council of Constance attempted to end the Great Schism by choosing a single pope. By now, there were a total of 3 popes. Anybody could be a pope. The Avignon Pope, the Roman Pope, and a third pope elected by an earlier council in Pisa. You want to be... I'm declaring myself pope. I am pope of my house. Mainly because I like the hats. With the help of the Holy Roman Emperor, the council forced all 3 popes to resign. In 1417, the council chose a new pope, Martin V. Pope Marty. His last name was McFly. You can write this down. He was actually he was actually from 1985, but he had a DeLorean. Pope Marty McFly V, ending the Great Schism. So 1417, Pope Martin V ends the Great Schism by leaving, but it leaves the papacy greatly weakened. Scholars challenged church authority. We're almost done. The papacy was further challenged by an Englishman named John Wycliffe. He preached that Jesus Christ, not the Pope, was the true head of the church. He was much offended by the worldliness and wealth of many clergy displayed. So we talked about this, right? Like the selling of indulgences, and you can buy your way into heaven and stuff like that. That was a problem during the Middle Ages. Wycliffe also taught that the Bible alone, not the Pope, was the final authority for Christian life. He helped spread this idea by inspiring an English translation of the New Testament of the Bible. Influenced by Wycliffe's writings, Jan Hus, a professor in Bohemia, he was a little silhouette of a man. This is why I'm going to get fired. It's now part of the Czech. Bohemia is now part of the Czech Republic. Taught that the authority of the Bible was higher than that of the Pope. Hus was excommunicated in 1412. That's bad. In 1414, he was seized by the church leaders, tried as a heretic, and then burned at the stake in 1415. So that escalated quickly. All right. I would do a recap, but I don't know what I just read. And I'm just joking. Just rewind and watch it again if you need help with the questions. That's, hey, this has been History McNuggets.